Hello and welcome to another episode of the METAcast. This is episode 2 of the METAcast, our podcast for the METAgames YouTube channel. I'm Michael, and joining me today is Connor.
Yo.
And Johnny.
Hi.
Just the three of us today.
Yeah.
And this episode's rules is that we've all swapped microphones with each other, and you have to figure out who's using my mic by the end of it. Okay, why don't we start with the scoreboard? Check it in.
Okay, lightning scoreboard.
Checking in. Number 1, Alistair. As always, he just fucking wins stuff.
He just
During the month,
smashes it.
I overtook him, but by the end of the month, he's overtaken me again. So Alistair's on 5 wins, 5 losses.
Yeah.
Behind player 2, second
He had
place.
defeat in that side. Just
Is yeah. Well, as it is my YouTube channel, I have I feel like I should
some
have
player,
the highest score.
Some player won you are.
Yeah.
maybe that's a rule. It's like if you ever go above Michael, you're instantly fired.
It's
Anyone heard from Connor
If you
lately?
go above
not Connor,
Michael,
Al?
you are the new. It's your channel now. You inherit it. You
I
can
give
do
you the
with it as you
password
please.
and the URLs, and you just
you
manage
do with
it.
it as you please. He's now turned it into a YouPorn channel.
You edit and upload 2 episodes a week. I actually would like to do that. Let's start a YouPorn channel, but it's just this exact, identical to the YouTube.
Right.
But it's not porn at all.
Yeah.
It's just Let's Play still.
You just get all the comments would just be like, "Where's the cum shots?
Yeah.
It'd be
Where
like-
are the tits?"
I still jerked off to it.
Yeah. Have you seen those it's stock images of people at computers with Pornhub comments on as captions? They're
That's
so
good stuff.
fucking good.
There was a guy who smashed his computer. Because,
Sorry, Johnny, I'm going to stop you there.
No, I want to hear this.
Yeah,
There
go
was a
for
guy
it.
who smashed his computer because his mum was walking in on him and he was on Pornhub.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Did
then
it freeze or something and he couldn't minimize
it
it?
freezed, so he couldn't minimize it. So he just smashed his computer and he tweeted Pornhub, and they're like, "Oh, we'll just send you a new one."
Yeah, they sent him
But they had a photo with all the Pornhub stickers on it, and they're like, as a bit of a laugh, I'm like, oh, they're just kidding. But there was a follow-up tweet of him with a laptop, no for stickers or anything like that. Pornhub had given him a brand new laptop,
yeah.
Fuck.
which instantly makes them the best porn site.
They're
I
pretty cool.
guess.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, they're not a porn site. They're just a streaming,
They're a tube site.
pretty sure most of
site.
the stuff up there isn't actually, legit anyway.
What do you mean?
They're not, I think people, steal the videos that are, on actual porn sites that you have to pay a subscription to and put it up on those tube sites.
As much tube sites are convenient as hell, but I feel like they're killing the porn industry.
They
Yeah.
might be. I don't know.
I kind of
I
think
think
they
there's
are,
plenty of people that still buy, porn magazines.
really magazines.
Are they 40 years old?
I think
Yeah.
people, I think a lot of, there's enough people that are behind. It's sort of like Foxtel.
Right.
Enough people are behind to just not get what Netflix is.
Yeah,
to just
yeah,
get
I get
Foxtel because they're I don't understand.
Yeah.
and they're too ignorant.
They're I
to
don't want it
learn.
over the
They're
internet. I want it on my TV. I don't want to
Yeah.
have to go on the internet to use it.
Yeah.
And they're no, but you already have
Yeah.
internet. You already have unlimited internet to get this. And they're no. I just want Foxtel because it's on the TV channels.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only
but-
thing that I really want Netflix for is if it had Game of Thrones. I have
Right.
Netflix, but I'm only reason why I see Foxtel being good is because it has Game of Thrones. The
Yeah.
right for it.
I have Netflix. I dig it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
We know that you dig it. We've talked about that a lot
Did we
last
talk about it on
episode.
the podcast? Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We'll talk about it some more, but sorry to derail back to the scoreboard because we didn't get through it. I'm in second place. I've got 3 wins, 7 losses. It's pretty brutal. But then again, I haven't been in every video.
Yeah.
Connor, you're number 3 still.
Cool. Sorry, I'm looking at these stock images with Pornhub comments. Look at this one. It's just a dude sitting at his laptop and it just says wood pound, yes.
Yeah, Connor, you're number 3. Congratulations.
Hey, I'm number 3. Ah, sick, yeah.
You've got 1 win, 2 losses.
Which,
Johnny,
yeah,
number 4.
I know, but
1 win,
since
5 losses. It's not
Look,
too bad.
It's the games that we played. I did not. A lot of the games that we play, I've never played before.
Most of the games that all of us play, we've never played before.
That's true.
There's not an excuse like that.
Connor has not played as many games as I have.
Yeah, but He's still winning.
He's still laughing.
So get over it.
There's literally just a guy going, amazing pair of ass chicks.
But he's like, he's put a full stop after every word and he misspelled ass cheeks. It says ass chicks.
Yeah, this is terrible radio.
No, it's great.
I'm going to have to cut out some of this stuff. For the video version,
I wouldn't mind being waterboarded by her squirting pussy. Sorry, all right, continue.
All right, put your phone away now, Con.
Hey, one more.
I'll confiscate it.
And Shaylee and David.
No, David's in 5th place with no wins,
David sucks.
4 losses, and then Shaylee in 6th place with no wins but 7 losses.
That's a bummer.
That's
Shaylee?
the same losses as me, but I've won 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Whoa.
Well done.
Well, we'll see how things unfold
later on.
down the tracks. We've got some new games coming out.
The results may surprise you.
I don't know.
You're going to turn my YouTube channel into like a clickbait thing. 80% of people didn't realize that these were in his videos.
I like this. Like there's ones. There was one of those like, or like those spam images that come up like at the top of like banners on the top of like torrent sites or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, viruses on my computer. It's more possible than you think or whatever. And there was this guy found this version. There was a picture of a guy just like smiling at the camera. And it just says, "Poos in my bum." The results may surprise you or something like that. And I laughed till I cried.
So we know that if we want to like amuse you, we need to go very lowbrow.
Yeah.
Like there's just very like not even lowbrow. Like there's this magical sweet spot that just fucking makes me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Have you seen the gifs of the shopping channel things where people are like, "Oh, have you
Tried the
had trouble
takeaway?
with this before?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like they're like,
Ever have problems opening plastic bags?
Yeah,
It's like black and white footage of
Are
someone
you
like
sick of this happening?
tearing it
Yeah,
up.
exactly. And then like they look like they're heartbroken
Yeah.
when they open like a door
And,
and,
like,
all
a
these
cup
glasses
falls out, yeah.
fall out and they're just like, "Oh my god."
Tired of your
I like the ones
Tupperware
that, like,
taking up too much space?
Kids like pouring like milk and it's just going everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's like, you are fucking terrible.
It's like those kids, man. They need
Yeah.
gloves.
Put this kid down.
Johnny, you know that stuff isn't real.
No, I know it's not real.
No, it's still like, how fucking stupid do they think people are?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But yeah, like it's because of the magic of the internet and time traveling.
Yeah.
This is yesterday's episode of Hard Play will be out, which is a new game, not Witcher this week. We've got a first episode of Doom,
which I feature on.
which Connor features on, but he hasn't seen it yet because of time traveling.
Yeah.
But the results may surprise you.
They might.
Is that,
I can't remember it that well.
That's the sentence of the
Oh,
week.
man,
The
it
results
was-
may surprise you.
Editing it was brutal.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just say that. And I wrote an apology in the comments. 'cause
Oh, really?
I feel like we need to
I
apologize for
feel
that
like-
episode.
That's because I won't spoil it, but I think I know why it turned out
Yeah.
terrible.
You know
Technically,
why.
it doesn't.
Hopefully there was some good banter going on.
I think so.
All right.
And yeah, we've just played some fresh new beats games.
Yeah, some
that'll be
some-
coming out
some
in the
vintage
months coming.
That'll be
we
good.
we played a meta play that goes for almost as long as a hard play
Yeah,
because we're just changing it up.
unprecedented.
Because we just really thought it was going to be 10 minutes and it did not.
Yeah,
We
one
broke
round
the
we said.
formula.
There was a point where I was like, "Yeah, this is great," and then really quickly it was like, "How long has this got to go?"
Yeah.
We did an episode of a game that the ending may
Surprise
actually
you.
May
surprise
surprise
you.
you.
May surprise you.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next? What do you got to talk about?
What do I have next to talk about? We don't have many topics because I thought I'd just leave like half an hour's worth of the schedule for Mad Max.
I'm
I
okay
knew
with
that
this.
one.
Let's do it. Mad Max Fury Road.
Furry Road.
Yep. Yep.
All I want to say is, do you remember?
Max.
My name is Max.
My world is yiffing.
My world is fire.
And yiffing.
I can't do that voice to save my life. I'm sorry.
And blood.
I think it's very difficult to do his voice because that line from the trailer, I thought it was an Australian accent,
Yeah.
and that's like the first line of the movie.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
to spoil anything.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
not
it's
big
not if it's
spoilers.
first 30 seconds.
And I thought it was an Australian accent.
Yeah.
And then you hear him talk later on in the movie, and he's got a bit of a British accent, and then he
then
also
it slips into a little bit of an American
a little
accent.
bit of
It's
an
a kind
American,
of weird,
and then you're just like, it's just a weird
voice.
gruff voice.
And it was so cool.
But I didn't
I
didn't
dug it.
Yeah, I didn't mind
thought
it
was
too
really
much.
cool. And I
even though
thought,
it was
like,
sort of all over the place.
I
and
thought it was
funny.
cool that, like, pretty much the whole movie, he sounds like every time he talks, it sounds like he's just woken up. He's got that, like, my name is Max. My name is Max.
That'd be the weirdest thing.
5 more minutes.
If Max ever had a second girlfriend or his ex-wife, his wife from the first movie would
It's
be
not
like,
an ex,
well, not ex-wife, just wife,
just wife.
Yeah.
just wife. If he woke up being like, "Oh, I'm Max," it's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
My name's
Married.
Max.
My name is Max. Yep. Was yesterday too, honey. Get it.
I
Yeah,
very
exactly.
much enjoyed that movie.
I
But
fucking
before
loved
we
it.
start talking into the details, I wanted to say, do you remember when I came on your podcast?
Yes,
And
and
we
you
were
talked
talking about
about it.
Comic-Con, and you guys were talking about all that shit, and I was like, the best thing to come out of Comic-Con was the trailer for that movie.
Yeah.
And I was so psyched for that.
You were.
And I'm so glad that it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise,
I'm
that
so glad it was good.
episode would have like retroactively fucking. I would have just made fun of you.
Yeah,
Well, that's what
But,
in the Doom one, we actually make fun about Guardians of the Galaxy. And the
about
fact
what?
that we record our episodes so far apart from them airing.
Yeah,
So Guardians of the Galaxy hadn't come out yet.
wow.
And
hadn't it? I thought we talked about it like because then
No.
in a later episode we definitely talked
we
about Guardians.
talk
of the
about it
Galaxy.
later on, and
Right.
you're like, it's probably going to be shit, but we think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I like
But no, it
I
actually
stand
did
by
turn
that.
out to be it was an awesome,
it was an awesome movie.
It was
Like
an
I
awesome
liked
movie.
it, and I'm glad I saw it. But like,
but the movie I saw this week that was awesome was Mad Max.
yeah, that was
and
amazing.
Mad
and-
Max is already going to be another one.
Yeah,
What?
he's like
They've already
Miller's
gone-
already said like
Yeah.
he's got
Yeah.
scripts for like 2 more at this point.
So Mad Max Wasteland is the next one, apparently.
and I'm pretty sure
Well, there's-
Tom Hardy
there's
is
some
signed
rumors-
on for like
Yeah,
another 4.
Tom
or something
Hardy
like
was
that.
saying that he's going to do a couple more, which
Yeah.
I'm down with.
He signed a contract for like 4, I think.
Yeah, there's some funny. There's rumors that they're gonna like do spin-offs and like do another movie based on Furiosa.
Which I hope they
Yeah,
do.
well,
Because she's a really awesome
originally,
character.
originally they were saying there were 2 movies in production. It was like Mad Max Fury Road and Mad Max Furiosa.
yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay, because
But-
yeah, this movie has been around for like 15 years.
yeah.
And there's just been lots of. I'm not sure if any of the studios changed. I don't know if it was always Warner Brothers, but I know that like the desert where they were filming, I think there was some difficulties shooting there, so they had to like
Yeah.
leave it and stuff.
Yeah.
And
That was like,
That was like at the
04
height
or
of like
something?
the Iraq War, though. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of fucked things up.
but it's shot in Australia.
No, some of
No.
it was shot in Namibia.
What?
Yeah,
Because from
'Cause,
what I heard, it was shot in Melbourne, not Melbourne, but in Victoria, the same
Yeah.
place where
Yeah.
they shot all the other ones.
pretty sure a bunch of it was shot in Namibia because they were planned to shoot in Australia, but then where they were going to be shooting, it had rained a bunch and
Yeah.
turned the landscape kind of
Too nice.
too lush.
Yeah.
So they had to like go to
Yeah, I was saying it's sort of like they had like a Star Wars curse where like when they went to shoot on Tatooine for the first time, it was like I don't know, maybe the Sahara or something,
Yeah.
some crazy off desert.
Yeah.
They had like crazy rainfall, and it was like the worst like weather they've ever had in that
Yeah.
desert for like 100 years. And then again when they went to shoot the Naboo scenes for is it Naboo? Am I right?
I don't know.
Mighty Boosh, yeah.
No, shut up. No, is it Tatooine? I've gone completely blank.
Tatooine's.
And in your nerd card.
Yeah, I know. I
Shit,
should.
can't remember.
The desert planet,
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
Tatooine.
Tatooine.
Tatooine,
Yeah,
yeah.
Naboo is the moon of Naboo. That's the
Oh, fuck.
forest
Yeah, I
moon,
don't know.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
or is that Endor?
Endor's the one with
Doesn't
the
matter.
Wookiees.
Fucking hell!
Doesn't matter. Keep going.
Haven't watched Star Wars in a while, but yeah, the desert.
Place with all
They
the
go
sand
back to
people.
shoot in Phantom Menace, the
Yeah.
same place, and they get the worst rains on record since they shot A New Hope like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like what Mad Max doing, where they're like, we're gonna go and shoot it here where we've always shot it, and they're like, yeah, really
Yeah,
bad weather,
yeah.
so
The
they had
rain's
to
like, fuck you, George Lucas.
Yeah.
stop shooting and stuff. And I know they shot it actually quite a while ago. Like they actually did all of the principal photography in 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they
it's
do.
sort of been sitting there in post for a
They've
couple of
been-
years.
They've been like trying to get that film off the ground since 2001. I think.
Yeah, well,
they tried to shoot it in 04 or something like that, and that's when
Yeah.
they had the trouble with the
there
desert.
was a lot of like
Just shit kept going wrong.
There was a lot of shit.
They
But
wanted
they tried to
Heath
rush.
Ledger was going to be playing Mad
yeah,
Max.
I read about that
at some
recently
point.
where originally George Miller said that they actually had Mel signed on
Yeah, but
for
then
this
he
Max.
kind of
And then I think
went off the rails.
when he went off the rails, as you put it politely, they wouldn't sort of back him being the main character anymore
yeah.
because of that.
really-
Then in between that time and Tom Hardy, Heath Ledger was gonna
Yeah.
be that
Yeah.
for a couple of years, and he
Yeah.
said that like whenever Heath would come back to Australia, he would like meet up with him and talk about it, and they would like talk about it for hours of like different stuff.
That's so cool.
And then Tom Hardy after that.
Yeah. Well, I was
I would've-
reading. You go.
I would have liked to see the scene in Mad Max where Mel Gibson just comes out of nowhere with a telephone,
Yeah.
just throws it at Max.
I wouldn't like that.
I don't think
I know.
was Mel Gibson the telephone throwing one. I thought that was Russell.
No, that was Russell Crowe.
Oh, was it?
Mel Gibson was the one that just
Mel Gibson, the one
called-
who was like fucking Jews. That
yeah,
guy.
he got drunk and he got pulled over for drinking.
Yeah,
and he
he's an-
yelled at the
he's an
police
anti-Semite
officer
and
about
What's the
being
one that
Jewish.
called up his wife and just abused her?
Who fucking knows?
I don't.
Someone
all
we
of them.
don't. We
I
don't.
think that might have been that might have been Russell Crowe or Mel Gibson again, but
Maybe
it was
it's
like
just
a later
both.
thing. I don't know.
Luckily,
Whatever.
neither of them were
Doesn't matter.
were in this fantastic movie.
Mel Gibson's an awesome actor. Like
yeah, and
and
a
he's
great
a really
storyteller.
really fucking good director. Like
Yeah.
I haven't seen Passion of the Christ, but Apocalypto was insane.
He's a nutter, but he
And
knows
that was
story.
very much into that period where people thought he was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But he kind of was crazy. Like have you
absolutely.
heard
It's
that
fucking
in
nuts.
but he was sort of like crazy being a filmmaker compared to Braveheart, where he was sort of
Okay.
just like being normal,
Yeah.
chilled. There's a scene in Apocalypto for like a split second where they're looking at like a big pit full of like dead bodies,
Yeah,
and someone dressed up as Where's Wally, like Wally from, or the American view as Waldo,
yeah.
like he's lying in the pit of bodies.
Really?
What?
Yeah, like a dead Wally
Jesus
for like
Christ!
for like a frame.
Wow.
Is that just like a
That's
joke?
bizarre.
or,
Yeah, he
like-
just put it in there for jokes, and like he put he's actually like in there for like a split second as well, like for a frame. You can
Jesus.
see like him standing next to someone, and his face kind of just like popping out from over their shoulder,
No,
and like
Gib-
looking like a crazy person.
Jesus
Mel
Christ.
Gibson with the beaver puppet. He's like, what's
Yeah.
up? Like,
Well, that movie was really good.
I haven't seen
I've
it.
seen
That was a really good
half
movie.
of that, and I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Like I watched the last.
Watch the whole thing. The
I need to-
Beaver is actually a really good movie. That was
Yeah.
directed by Jodie Foster,
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
and she gave the lead role to Mel after all that shit had happened, and no one really wanted to hire him.
That's cool.
That's
he did
really-
an outstanding performance in that movie.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it's a really basically the premise is that he's a man who's like married and he's got some kids and he's just suffering from depression, and he finds this beaver hand puppet
yeah.
and he puts it on, and then he starts like talking to himself with it. He like develops this mental health disorder where he believes that the beaver's an actual real person. And I think it does a really good job of being a really entertaining movie. It's a bit larger than life, but it doesn't it sort of shows a fairly realistic view of what some people with mental health disorders go through without like being offensive by blowing it out of proportion and making it unrealistic.
That's cool.
Yeah, back to Mad Max.
Yeah.
We can just say full spoilers because we've all watched it.
Yeah, totally. Like this
So-
is essentially this segment of
Yeah,
the podcast
pretty
is
much.
essentially a spoiler cast.
The one thing that did anyone read the article about guys boycotting?
I
it?
wanted to bring this up.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
see,
men's rights
that's the
activists.
really
Yeah.
bullshit thing about it, where it's like it's about
I heard about
a
that.
woman who's like the general of this crazy guy
Well,
who
yeah.
decides to like fuck off and betray him
Hmm.
and help rescue all of these women that he has captured
Yeah.
as his wives. Yeah,
as these wives
As
that
property,
are just
basically.
for like they're like
Breeders.
they're the genetically fine women that don't have any problems, so they would make like the best
Offspring.
children in this
Yeah.
wasteland where like everyone's sort of suffering from radiation and stuff.
Yeah.
And they sort of need to be taught that they're not property
Yeah.
yeah.
because they've been brought up from children, sort of
Yeah.
thing, to
Yeah.
do this. And so the cast consists mainly of these females being fucking badasses,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like
But like
some of them not being badasses, but being like,
but
still
using the
strong
using the
and-
like the things they have access to, like as women to survive, like surviving by any means necessary.
Yeah, and not all
sort
of
of
them
thing.
are just like, oh yeah, they're chicks and they're all fucking killing machines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
There's
like
a good diversity of that.
yeah, totally. And like the pregnant woman, I've forgotten her name.
Rosie.
No, not the actress's name, the character's name, but she like
Rose, isn't it
Like
something
she's,
Huntington Whiteley?
the one from Transformers.
Yeah.
she's like, she's pregnant and like she knows that I've forgotten his name, Immortan Joe,
Yeah.
like doesn't want her harmed, at all. Like she's
Yes.
the most precious cargo essentially. So when like Immortan Joe's about to shoot
Max,
she
can jump in the way.
Like, she
Yeah.
jumps in the way and she uses like the thing she has access to defend herself and
Yeah.
defend.
I really like that
the
as well.
cargo
That
and
the
stuff.
wives,
It's so
they
cool.
know that they're trying to get them back and not harm them. So they
and
can
I think
use
it's
that
so
against
cool
them.
that like they're not like they're not killing machines because they've not been they haven't grown up to be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not hopeless. None of them are completely hopeless. Like some of them
Yeah.
are stronger in different ways than others, but each of them use like kind of the things that in other movies, like that at one point in particular where the girl's like oh don't I'm sorry, take me back, and the bad guy like picks her up, and then she's like tricked him. She's played the I'm sorry, I'm just a
Which is
stupid-
funny
I'm
because
just,
she was the one that was like the least confident about
yeah,
leaving.
and then she
so
totally like flips that
earlier
around.
on in the movie, she totally almost does
Yeah,
try and
yeah.
run back.
Yeah.
And then you're like, is she just flaking again?
yeah.
And then it's like, no, she's actually using that against
Yeah.
them, which is really cool
Yeah.
because I liked what's that guy's name? What's his name?
Which one?
The British guy. Nicholas Hoult.
Yes, he was awesome.
I really liked his character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really worried for the wives because they're all like they don't want to kill people.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because they understand that like the war boys are like they are the result of circumstance the same way that they are.
Yeah.
And that those boys have been brought up as children to be these just like mindless killing things, and they've been told all this stuff about Valhalla and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
And they spray paint their mouths before they go on like a suicide run.
Yeah.
Because they believe this shit.
Yeah.
And so they recognize that he's not actually the one to blame.
Yeah.
And I was like, right on, that's cool.
That's really
But I was
cool,
just worried that he was just going to just keep coming back because there were so many opportunities to kill him, and then he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, like, I really liked that character's development. And he has almost the most development of any character in the film.
I mean, like, yeah,
After
totally.
he thinks that Joe's been killed, and then the redheaded girl, can't remember many of the wives' names. She sort of like sees that part of him that's not like shit, and sort of helps him.
Yeah, it's
sort of
real
realize
sweet.
some of that stuff.
It's
I was worried for them just around that same time where the wife used that trick of being like, oh, take me back, help.
Yeah.
That was right when Nicholas Hoult saw that Joe wasn't actually dead.
Yeah.
And they sort of like, I think it's like it's like a red herring. Like they purposely
you
make it a
think
red
he's
herring.
gonna,
You're
like,
oh shit,
portray them.
Is all of that going to go out the window now
Yeah.
because he realizes that he's not actually dead?
Yeah.
And I was so glad that he doesn't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been really gutted.
It was a really good movie, but yeah, the article about boycotting the movie was all because it's like, oh, these females are doing something.
They were saying that the
It's
movie
like-
as a whole is
It was a very feminist
propaganda.
Like that's what it was.
That's the thing. That like they're calling it propaganda, but that it just feels
It's not.
very
It
much
doesn't
like.
feel like
And
it.
I was reading
those
it. I was reading
really
in-
angry men that
I was
Yeah.
reading this great article
it's
that
just
was saying
fucking
that like
annoying.
Mad Max is in a lot of ways a really strong like you could use it as a strong like feminist film, but it's strong because it's not propaganda and
Yeah,
it's not in your
exactly.
face. They're
It's not
not
preachy.
they're not preachy. They're not like let's show them what we can do, girls, ladies.
Yeah.
It's like it's because it's not
and
marketed.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not marketed to women or
It doesn't
anything.
feel like
Yeah.
they're
It's not-
shoving feminism down your
Well, that's
throat
the
or anything
funny
like that. It's
thing,
just
yeah.
like these are characters, they're doing something. That's just the way they
It
are.
highlights
Like,
that gender doesn't
it doesn't dictate
that's the thing.
anything.
yeah,
It's-
it doesn't
it's
inhibit
not
one's
tr-
ability to use what
Yeah, the
they
message
have
from
at
the
their
film
disposal.
isn't that women are
Survive.
inherently better than men. That's
Yeah.
not what they're trying to say. Like
Yeah.
the point that the film makes is that
People,
like
people?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in
basically.
this circumstance, like the majority of the men are the bad guys coming after the females.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like how they said, like Nicholas Holt's character, they know that like that's not his fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not inherently
and it's not their fault and it's at the same time it's not the women's fault that they are kind of weaker, or the wives' fault rather, that they are weaker than the men.
Yeah, and
in some ways, because again, it's just
the way they've been
part of their
brought up,
circumstances,
like character development.
But then they've got Furiosa, who is a total fucking badass, you know, which kind of shows that, hey, had they been raised that way, they could have been just as tough, if not fucking stronger than the men, you know?
And the thing is, what's the director's name?
George Miller.
George Miller. He was basically like, yeah, the reason why Furiosa was a woman is because, like, you know, it doesn't make sense that it would be a guy.
Well, and
like, you know what I mean?
I think that was so smart, because he could have just been like, no, fuck it, it's Mad Max, it's you know, boys club. But like, it would have been, but that, like, had he done that, it would have been kind of it would have been kind of offensive, to be honest, if it's like this dude, like, you know, taking this other dude's, this other man, this other guy's women who are basically his property and shit, you know. It would have been kind of gross.
Well, I think that Fury Road's probably the best out of all the Mad Max films.
Well, I think
some people would say that's blasphemy. David, who is not here, would argue our legs off that the first Mad Max is the best one, which I think is horseshit. The second one's an awesome movie, and this has the most similar to the second film. And in the second film, it's all about the fuel, and so they've got this tanker of fuel that they're trying to like protect. And I like how Fury Road raises the stakes by being like, it's not the petrol that's important, it's people. Like actual people. And it doesn't do it in a way that only makes the women. It doesn't treat the women. They're not just trophies. They're not just treated as objects for that purpose. They actually get the development to like shine in the movie. And what was the other point I was going to say? I don't know.
Well, I've never seen Thunderdome, but I was looking at like an interview, and it was like talking about how Mad Max came about, and it was like, you know, in the 70s where fuel was a really shortage and stuff like that. So George was like, oh, well, what would happen if, you know, 50 years down the line it just became bigger and worse, and kind of went from there. But I've never seen Thunderdome, but Mad Max 1 and 2 are just amazing films. But
the first one's, I wouldn't say the first one's an amazing film.
I feel like the first one
it's a classic, and it's very significant, but in the way that it's just really dated, like it's very peculiarly acted, and all the dialogue's really
that's because, like, I mean, like the like a lot of the gang members and stuff were just bikies. They paid them beer and shit. Like.
And it's a cool period where like a lot of those car exploitation films were being made in Australia because it was way cheaper.
And it paved the way for, like, because it did so well in America, like it paved the way for a lot of other like movies that are classics and that aren't quite as dated, you know?
Yeah.
No, totally.
But I remember reading something where it was like when Mel Gibson, like when Mad Max was first released, they didn't like Mel Gibson's voice, so they dubbed it.
They didn't think that Americans would understand the accent.
Yeah, originally they dubbed it to be American voice.
Once the DVD came out, though, it was the Australian.
I actually tried to find a version with the American voices just to like hear it. Because I went back and rewatched all three before watching Fury Road, and I couldn't find it. But
sure, it's gonna be somewhere.
I've got no problem with Australian accents, but I've got a sort of a problem with just the voices in that first movie because they're just weird. I think even maybe the second film was dubbed in with American accents.
Possibly.
I'm not sure, because in America, like, they all know it as Road Warrior. Where in Australia, it is Mad Max 2.
I think the problem we have with Australian films sometimes is our representation, because now some people are like, oh yeah, they're Australian. It's like, oh yeah, how's it going? Like, that's
Shrimp
the
on
way
the Barbie,
we're seen.
Classic.
Like,
it's all stereotypes.
It's very stereotypical.
Kind of.
Like, at least in America theater.
I feel just like there's a lot of stuff that we make that isn't actually interesting to American audiences, and that's why a lot of the films that get like government subsidies and stuff like that aren't commercial overseas, because they just don't work overseas.
I saw Predestination the other week, and that was an amazing film.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it.
That film was so well done. It's a time travel film, basically.
I know the film. It's got Ethan Hawke in it, right?
Yep, Ethan Hawke. It's so, like, it's really well done. But I think the reason why it's like, oh yeah, this is good, is because it doesn't feel like it's an Australian film at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's just a film. Like, I thought it was English.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like the cool thing with Fury Road, that when I'm watching it, I'm like, this can do fucking awesomely internationally.
Yeah, totally.
Because this kicks the shit out of Fast and the Furious or like a Transformers movie in terms of cars and action.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's actually got a really good story.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually got really good acting in it.
I like
some of it's fucking batshit insane, like the man with his flame-throwing guitar.
Yeah, dude.
It's
honestly,
awesome
I
that
came
they
out
like
of that movie
bring their drums with them.
Yeah, I
because
came out
that's
of
like
that
an
movie
old
just
school
like,
war thing to do.
Yeah.
This is the most metal fucking movie ever. Like,
and it's the most fucking metal movie ever, while still having this like really good like feminist message.
Absolutely, and like I honestly, because I was kind of like, I was really enjoying that movie. Like, and I was so happy to see like these like characters, these female characters like kicking ass, because we talked a bit about like representation and stuff.
Yeah,
like on the last podcast,
and just loads during our let's plays and stuff,
and like and just like seeing that in this movie and thinking like, so many people can watch this and get a kick out of it. This makes me so happy. I was like,
well, that was the thing. Like,
borderline tearing up at some points just because I was
Shaylee
so
didn't want to go see it with me, and now that she's heard about it, she's actually interested in seeing it.
Same. Like,
and it's just
Caitlin was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll watch it, but didn't come along when we went and saw it just because of timing.
Yeah.
But I was just like raving to her, and I was like sending her articles about like the from like feminist writers and stuff who were like, this is a fucking important movie. This is cool.
Like, it's really fucking cool.
Like I went to work like 5 minutes after I finished watching that film. Like I had to work. I had timed it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I just walked in and I'm like, everyone has to see this film. Now I work with a lot of females. I'm like, you have to see this film.
Totally.
And they're very much like, I'm not really into action films, stuff like that. I'm like, no, you have to watch this film. Like,
this
it's
like
so...
it's fucking like, I mean, I can't like, I'm probably, I don't want to sound, I probably sound pretty fucking ignorant, but like it has to be kind of empowering, doesn't it? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
To like see your gender like not for once not playing like, it's like
that's
like fucking trophy sex or
everything I've heard
some
from
other bullshit
from women who love these sorts of movies. Yeah. They are like, we've had like, I grew up watching Ghostbusters and never got to see the female characters getting to be the hero, and I watched Star Wars and I never got to see the female characters in that movie actually being the hero. And so when they actually get to like, it's still Mad Max.
Yeah.
It's still the fucking crazy thing that Mad Max is. It doesn't do anything wrong that isn't Mad Max.
Yeah.
But there's fucking awesome female characters in it that like people can watch and they can like see themselves as that sort of character and stuff like that.
Has anyone seen the Taylor Swift music video that came out the other day?
Bad Blood?
Yeah, Bad Blood.
No, I haven't watched it. I really like that song.
It's like a 5-minute.
Is that crazy shit where it's like, it's kind of like Tron, it's kind of like Hunger Games, it's kind of like...
it kind of has this Tron Hunger Games kind of thing, like Blade Runner.
Is it good?
It's really good. It's just like women kicking ass, like
that's
superhero kind of thing, like, you know, them with knives, like kicking ass. And
that's
I'm like,
cool.
I'm like, if Marvel turn around tomorrow and goes, hey, Taylor Swift, we want you to make a movie like this, I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, make a fucking Taylor Swift, make a Black Widow movie.
Did you see that hilarious fake trailer that they made for the Black Widow movie?
Oh my God, that is
the
amazing.
SNL one? I haven't watched
it. That's so funny.
It's just like,
oh yeah, if Black Widow got her own movie, it would just be like a rom-com set in New York.
Well, you know what's sad? I was reading an article
and she like falls in love with Ultron.
Yeah, I was reading an article where on IGN, this female writer was saying that how disappointed she was with the Supergirl trailer that came out like a couple of days after that sketch, which was kind of that sketch.
Kind of that?
It's got some stuff with her being Supergirl and stuff, but it's also got her like getting ready for a date and it's got the rom-com elements.
But the interesting thing was I was looking at GIFs side by side and it was like, you know, this is the start of the trailer of Flash and this is the start of the trailer for Supergirl. And it's very similar. It's like, hey, I'm Barry Allen. Hey, I'm, Superman's cousin. And it goes on and goes on. And it's just like, yeah, but the thing is Flash goes off to go, oh yeah, and I have to avenge my dad and like, avenge my mother and everything like that. And then Supergirl goes, now I'm going to get ready for my date. And there's all these articles talking about it. And it's like, oh, well, the big thing is people are against it just because she's a woman. And I'm like, no, I think it's just because I feel like that trailer for Supergirl was very much like, yeah, it's a female superhero. And I'm like, why can't she just be a superhero?
I think that's people get that's what's so good about Mad Max is they don't get hung up. They're not like, hey, check it out, strong female character. They're just like, hey, check it out, strong character.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like the Supergirl trailer. I haven't watched it, but yeah, from what you're sounding like, that sounds like that is bad representation where sad thing is there are a lot of like men that are just angry because they're men, and there's a whole bunch of men that don't want to go see
the website
a superhero movie that's a female superhero.
Yeah, the website that put up the boycotting Mad Max thing predominantly was a website called The Return of Kings, which is this bullshit fucking website full of fucking idiots talking about like the manosphere and how alpha they are and all this fucking ridiculous shit. And they're genuine as well. And apparently one of them was like, hey, let's boycott this movie. We'll go see fucking Terminator Genesis instead. And it's like, you realize that
Sarah Connor,
does that mean nothing to you?
Like,
you fucking
Sarah Connor
Philistines?
is like this, like one of the super early ones, like Ellen Ripley.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like fucking Linda Hamilton in the second one.
Fuck.
Those fucking chin-ups. God damn.
God damn, yes.
God damn. She'd kick the shit out of any.
Exactly. She would fucking,
badass.
self-proclaimed alpha males would get fucking destroyed.
Yeah, it's what was I trying to say? I feel like that's the problem. I was talking to one of my friends about how people are just kind of like pissed at stuff like the female Ghostbusters movie, and he's like, yeah, but like, are they really? And it's like, no, that's the problem. Like, if you go online, there is like these tens of thousands of these men
people
being
genuinely have a problem
just being
with this
like,
stuff.
no, not seeing this movie.
It's ridiculous.
And it's like, what the fuck?
But I think there's a problem in saying, hey, we're going to make a female Ghostbusters movie. It's like, why can't you just say a remake of Ghostbusters? Like, it doesn't, the female part of it shouldn't be predominant in terms of the article. Like,
it's weird.
You know what I mean?
I'm kind of torn with that stuff because I think it is something worth making a big deal over.
Some people can make a big deal over when you're talking about actors and you're like, oh, are you an actor or an actress?
Yeah.
And then some people are like, no, I want to be like seen as equal, so I'm an actor even though I'm a female.
Yeah.
I'm a female actor, I'm not an actress.
Yeah, but then other ones are like, no, I want the distinction.
At the end of the day, it's language.
Yeah.
It's a descriptor. Like, that Ghostbusters movie is an all-female cast Ghostbuster movie. Like, that is the deal. The same way that the original Ghostbusters was an all-male cast Ghostbusters movie. I don't think there's like a problem saying that. I think that's a bit sort of kind of like how they say anti-racism. It's like anti-feminism, but it's not really anti. It's just like there's nothing wrong with defining the gender,
I guess
like
that's
with
true.
language.
But I mean, like when Ghostbusters first came out, it's like, look, it's an all-male Ghostbusters. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
but
now,
I guess that's more to do with like, I mean, males have never had like
They've never had
white males have never been underrepresented.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Like they've never had that.
I'm
problem.
happy that like
they've never had like, oh yeah, here's these three female characters who hunt ghosts and kick ass, and here's like the man that's like helpless and he's just there to get fucked and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
That's where I feel like in this kind of circumstance, like with the Ghostbusters, like all female Ghostbusters thing, I feel like it's worth kind of saying, hey, look, check it out. You know,
yeah, exactly.
It's cool, and also it's
progress.
Paul Feig, who's awesome.
Yeah.
Although I think the Heat is pretty shit.
Going back to the Supergirl trailer, it was interesting. They had a bit of dialogue where it was like, why is it Supergirl? Like, you know, why is it not Superwoman? Right? And this, I think it's a journalist or something like that goes, oh, you know, I'm a girl, but I still kick ass and I still do this and I can still do this. I'm like, yeah, it's really cool, right? Like, you know,
I don't know,
putting some backing towards it, but
it kind of only just like,
but
it's because it's a comic book.
Yeah.
And like that's why.
Yeah.
But it was just really annoying because out of that 6 minutes, it seemed like 30% of it was going towards her coping with her powers. Like, you know, Flash is like, you know, 90% of that.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was like, can she have a dating life and her superpowers? And I'm just kind of like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of get that what you're saying, but also like if you watch the trailers for like Flash,
I think
Flash and Arrow, you're also kind of like, these are just like soap operas anyway.
I feel like
it's true.
They are very like soap opera heavy compared to like when you watch Daredevil
with
and you're
like the comic book.
This is good. This is actually like superhero shit, not just like.
It's weird with like the comic book movies and TV series thing where like, you know that it feels like the people like who are kind of most involved, like, you know, the directors and the writers and stuff, are probably fans of the comics in some respect, and want to like and want to make like faithful.
In terms of the comics, people are okay with all sorts of shit. Yeah. People are sweet with going, yeah, female superheroes, or like, yeah, Peter Parker dies.
That's what I mean.
We've got a new Spider-Man. Trying to like, he's black, and everyone's cool with that.
Yeah.
But then the idea of like,
but that's because the movie audience and the TV audience isn't the same, and they're trying to like, they're trying to appeal to the TV audience, not just the comic audience.
The people that read the comics, they're totally cool with it, most of them. And then there's the people who hear that like, oh yeah, Sony's rebooting Spider-Man again so that he can be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then people are all rumoring about it being Miles Morales. And there's a whole bunch of people that are like already boycotting it and being like, fucking, why is Spider-Man black? Fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go see it.
That's what happened
And you're
before.
like, what the fuck?
And that's where
before-
like it gets annoying. Like, I kind of feel kind of bad for the people who are trying really hard to like get the cinematic universes to the point where everyone's okay with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's probably a reason why we haven't had a Black Widow movie, is because it would be kick ass, but people wouldn't see it. You know,
Well, I think
because
now's a good time
like-
to plug your YouTube channel, Johnny, and the YouTube video you made.
yeah.
what was
That's
the video you
about
made?
it's about
did a
the
video on
representation of females
representation
in
in females in the comic
sick.
books.
What's
And-
your channel called? Or like
I've
what's
forgotten it.
comic books. Fact Studio.
Fact Studios, that's what it's called.
FACT Studios?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay,
if you
I'm gonna
look it up,
that
it's
sounds cool.
it's women from the 1920s and before that, and it was just talking about how they're represented, and it was kind of interesting because I feel like there was a lot. I don't know if I am not researching enough or anything like that, but it feels like there was a lot of representation or like a lot more feminism power in 1920s, and then it kind of just subsided.
It's
like-
it's weird when you like, I don't know, like how the waves of feminism like correlate with the female representation in comic books.
Yeah,
it
well-
might not be necessarily
Yeah.
I was
matched, but there's a lot of stuff where it's like they've gone through waves where this is why feminism gets this really bad term and sort of like feminazi, because there's a bunch of them that are like, hey, we want to be able to vote and fucking have rights and get paid equally. And you're like, yeah, fucking equality. That's what you should have.
Yeah.
And then there are ones where they're like, fucking all sex is rape.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
But that's
guys,
like that's I mean that's
calm
that's,
down.
that's just a people problem, you know.
Yeah,
Like that's every fucking movement, religion,
So I think like
organization
some
has
of
extremist
the
dickheads.
representation in the comic books can change
well
Yeah.
based on
It was-
what's going on at the time. But the thing I brought it up for and gave you the plug was because when you do that research, you're like, there are decades and decades and decades of representation of women in comic books that you can see it change, where we haven't had that in movies and TV shows, where it can be like, here's a lead
That's what I mean.
female character
Like, it
in
was
this
just-
awesome action
That's what I
movie.
mean. Like
Where-
the
comics have
comic
been able to do it for ages, and
Yeah.
so it's been
But that's 'cause they've
developed,
been
and the
around for
audience
ages, you know?
has
Well, the interesting thing
grown
was-
and it's going to take a long time for them for
Yeah.
idiots to grow out of that.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing because when I was researching it with a guy who I work with called Josh, and we were researching for like 4 weeks on that, and I was reading PhD candidates and everything like that. And there was one, she goes, "Yeah, there was no other superhero that was a woman before Wonder Woman," and I'm like, that can't be right. There's
Yeah.
no way that's right.
Do your history,
and,
dude.
And I researched it, and there was a lot of females, like a ton, to the point that I had to cut out a lot because I didn't have time for them.
Yeah.
Now, another interesting thing was in the Justice Society of America, which everyone knows about, Wonder Woman was in that, but she was a secretary. She wasn't anything else. All the
That's
guys
so
went out
weird.
and did everything. And you're like, oh, she wasn't represented well enough. And a lot of people think that's because the people that were running the comic books were really against women. But it was actually because the writer of that really didn't like people writing for his character. So that's why they never gave her enough lines, because he goes, oh, well, we can't technically do anything legally to write anything
Yeah.
because
interesting.
he was so like everything's by my power kind of thing. But another interesting thing that I put in the video was how quickly it went from Wonder Woman being represented very well to her staying at home and letting Steve, her boyfriend, go off and do stuff. And it just kind of went like that through the times, where depending on the writer, it was very feminist or very anti.
I was talking, I think part of it being able to like experiment with the female representation in comics comes from comic books just having this really big legacy. And I was talking to my friend last night about how I love that when someone like Batman is established well enough that people know Batman, that's when afterwards you can start doing the really fun stuff where you go, what if this, and it's the alternate Batman stuff that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what like a lot of the comics did, like where like they're like, oh, alternate, like, oh, what if this character's a woman instead?
Yeah,
and stuff
like there's
that.
a, there's a
Female
Spider-Man
Thor and
universe where it's
stuff,
like Gwen Stacy is Spider-Man.
Yeah, that
and
just
shit
got
like that.
released. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Edge of Spider-Verse is cool.
But yeah, I just read recently the Flashpoint comics where Bruce Wayne gets killed in the mugging instead, and Thomas Wayne becomes Batman.
And have you seen the animated movie?
I haven't watched it. It's on Netflix.
Really good,
Cool.
The Flashpoint movie. I'm gonna watch that because
Paradox.
I love the fact that Thomas Wayne is like Dark Knight Returns age, but during the stuff that Batman would just normally be doing.
Yeah.
Because he's a lot older, so he's like this tough, grizzled, stronger guy,
and he uses guns and shit,
and he fucking just murders people.
Yeah.
Like Killer Croc jumps out of the sewers, and he just breaks his neck.
But the interesting thing about that comic is how it gives you a reason as to why the Joker's never killed.
Yes,
because it's
that's the spoilers for the Night of Vengeance or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Where Bruce Wayne gets murdered, Thomas Wayne becomes Batman. But then Bruce Wayne's mother becomes the Joker.
Yeah.
So it's all like, oh, why does the Joker keep going into Arkham and getting broken out?
Yeah.
When he's murdered every other villain?
Yeah.
And he gives this really good reason as to why.
Because normally Batman is always like, oh, he never kills anyone. So the Joker is always, he's never killing the Joker. The Joker always gets away and gets another chance.
Yeah.
And in this universe, it's the same. And you're like, why is it the same? Because we've seen him and he's murdering all these people.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, it's his wife. And that's like the one that he can't do.
Yeah.
And she's just like fucking suffered really bad from all this shit. And that Thomas wasn't there to like help her. And she's gone like crazy and stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like the people trying to establish this Marvel Cinematic. I'm citing the Marvel Cinematic Universe specifically because that's just kind of the bigger one at the moment. I feel like the people trying to establish that have to kind of worry about like Joe Schmo not wanting to go see a Black Widow movie because it's fucking for chicks. And then when they try to make something like, I mean, this is DC, but a similar thing. When they try to make a Supergirl thing, they're like, shit, we want to please the comic book audience, but that's not going to fill the views quota or whatever. Yeah. We need the regular TV viewing audience to watch this shit. What are they like? Rom-com shit. I guess we have to put a certain amount of that in.
Yeah, and I think it's just it can be down to just not very good writing.
And
I mean, they're just not writing it well. If you look at video games, and I watch Feminine Frequencies channel Anita Sarkeesian where she talks about her video series is about representation of women in video games and how she points out what's bad about it.
Yeah.
But you can point out everyone's misrepresented in video games because people are really bad at writing video games as well as video games kind of being crazy and stupid. But it's every white male in a video game is a misrepresentation of what regular white males are.
Yeah. But I guess the problem
every person of a different race has a really terrible representation compared to films. People write films with characters of different races and they don't come off as crazy racist.
Yeah.
But it seems 99% of all the video games that do it just fucking get it wrong and it's really offensive.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just a long way to go in just the writing quality.
Definitely. And I mean speaking of just quality in general, you look at female superhero movies that have been funded before, and it's fucking Elektra and Catwoman, which both bombed.
A
studio isn't going to take a chance on a spin-off of this successful male superhero.
It's funny when you go
Black Widow, or whatever.
I was listening to IGN talk about Mad Max, and they go back and they're like, "Yeah, remember George Miller was going to make a Justice League movie?
Yeah,
and Megan Gale was cast as Wonder Woman, and they're like, how fucking sick would that have been? And you're like." Probably, but it's never going to happen, so there's no point in getting excited about it.
We can dream.
But I think as long as there's dudes like George Miller kind of making these kind of movies with just different characters and not making a big deal out of it, and kind of just doing it because it's they're people, why wouldn't they be represented in a movie about people, I think it's a really cool movie.
I think it's easy. I think there's sort of it's people think it's harder to write for women than what it actually is.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, what do women think about? Who does this? And it's just people. If you just write them the same, they have motivations the same as other characters that are just no fucking shit, they wouldn't be okay with this or whatever.
Yeah.
There's not that much different about it.
Yeah. I feel if you're trying to write specifically about women's issues, then maybe leave that to a woman who's experienced that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're just writing female characters, just write a character that's a good character.
When we're talking about superhero stuff or something like Mad Max, it's just all of sort of like acting is reaction, they say.
Yeah.
And writing is the same, where it's like you've just got to like put these people in this situation, and how they react in this situation is like the good writing. And it's like, well, in a lot of these situations like Mad Max or the superhero movies, like the fact that they have a different gender doesn't matter to how they react to the situation.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like it's not that hard.
And especially when an actor gets a script, they kind of go, okay, cool. And they kind of make it themselves and how they deliver lines and everything like that.
Yeah,
Like, it's
exactly,
not word
like-
for word.
Yeah.
Like,
No, yeah, you can. It's like they can see a lot into that character that like you didn't even realize was there and
exactly.
stuff. That's like I know Connor, you haven't you just told me recently you don't watch any Game of Thrones.
Nah, I'm not.
But I just
going on to it.
what do you mean you're over it?
No, I said I haven't gone
Oh,
on
you
to it.
haven't. I thought you said you're over it.
I saw death in Michael's
that's okay.
eyes. Like, you're over it?
So I was just reading recently where Sean Bean talked about his character, and basically he's got all these children, and then there's one that's a bastard. So he doesn't have the bastards don't have their surname. They call the bastards in the North Snow.
Right.
And he talked about how people are always like, oh, who's the mother and stuff like that? Is it important or something? And he basically just said he's just had this feeling that it's like, I'm pretty sure I'm not his biological father this whole time. And it's like he's just pretty certain of that by like reading the books or playing the character, reading the scripts, and just being like, well, my character's this really honorable man. Why wouldn't I accept this child as my child and give him my surname?
Yeah.
And that reason would have been, this. And so he just like came across that himself, and it's like, it's just a rumor and it hasn't been confirmed or anything. And there's nothing in the books that like confirm nor deny it sort of thing. And it's sort of up in the air, and it's a cool theory. And it's like, that comes from an actor just reading that character and just like understanding it enough. And it can be a difficult thing to write like a whole script and like have your idea of like, you know, if it's like an ensemble thing, like a superhero thing, you're like, you got like 10 to 20 characters that are like important that you got to like figure out.
Yeah.
And it's like you've only sort of got like a little bit of an idea of what they're actually about. And then when you give it to an actor who's they're only focusing on that one character, they can put a lot more into it. And they're all, I find also actors are just good at seeing stuff that like you're just too dumb to notice. And I'm sort of getting a bit better at like analyzing that stuff. But like I'll read a script as an actor and I'll see a whole bunch of stuff and just like presume stuff about the character that I don't think about myself when I'm writing the characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, when I was in high school, I remember getting a script and I had to do it for the end of year monologue. And I'm like, oh, this is really dramatic. Yeah, this is really intense. So I performed it like 3 months later and everything like that. And then turns out it was a comedy. But I had read it as a complete dramatic thing because the way he was talking about it was like, you know, a breakdown of a marriage. But like, I'm thinking that's a really dramatic thing, but it's actually supposed to be a comedy. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's cool.
Interesting.
I almost failed that class because of that.
Just like back to Mad Max real quick. Like
We can always come back to Mad Max.
Oh, fucking forever.
We'll always have Mad Max.
3 years from now, hey guys, remember Mad Max?
I just thought like, oh fuck, I'm gonna see that movie a dozen times.
You know it's a good movie
several
when you
times.
walk out and you go, I'm gonna go see Mad Max again tomorrow.
Yeah. Totally.
You know any movie's a good movie when you walk out of it and think, Mad Max, I'm going to go see Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it's I thought it was a really like kind of it was a pretty like powerful like movie emotionally. Like it was a really fucking pissed off movie. Like the whole time you just felt like I hope all these fucking men die.
Yeah.
I fucking hope these women turn around and fucking butcher these pigs. And then they do. And you're just like, yes. Like I was like when, again, spoilers, when Furiosa, like, what's she say? Like, remember me, and then like jams the thing in the thing, and it tears
his jaw off.
I was just, I literally sat like, I had to like hold in like
The
screams
joy.
of joy.
Yeah.
I actually sat, I was in my seat. I was like, it was like me, my friend Zach, and my friend Ethan, and that happened, and I literally just went, oh fuck yes, and like Ethan looked at me, and I was just like, sorry, but like. Oh my god, it was so satisfying. And like there's so many, then just like with the female representation thing, there's so many movies that I see, or not so many, but there's a handful of movies that do that for dudes, where like the dude gets revenge on the guy who fucking hurt him, or you know hurt his family or whatever. Like John Wick, when John like goes after the guys who killed his dog, it's really satisfying. You get that like, fuck yeah, you're an evil prick. And it's like that made me like, I was so fucking like, and then happy to the point of almost tears, just thinking some like teenage girl is going to see this and get that feeling. Like they're going to get that feeling that I get from fucking, seeing dudes do this. Like,
it's
so
awesome.
so nice.
And then it's also like, you realize when you get that feeling, you're like, I don't need this character to be male to enjoy this.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's the thing. If these fucking MRA dudes like just sat down and watched the movie instead of being little bitches, they would feel the same way, and they would like. I think they drop the whole anti-feminist shtick immediately.
Because the thing I find about feminism, it's about equality, and I don't like it when women they have this idea that
I don't like when women talk.
Yeah. I don't like it.
Sorry.
That's a joke.
That's a complete joke.
I don't like it when they talk when they're supposed to be cooking me food. No,
No.
I don't like it when they bunch their gender up as this thing where they're like, oh, women, we've had it so bad and blah, 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 this. And they take on like all of the history of that gender as a personal like thing that they've suffered. And it's like, well, you haven't. Because, like, right now, it's pretty good. And then they also turn around and go, like, all men are fucking pigs. And it's like, no, there are a bunch of, like, men and women who are cunts, and there are a bunch of men and women who aren't cunts.
Yeah.
And
Like,
gender
at the
is
same
irrelevant.
time-
And so, like, I'm not a man hater when I watch that scene in Mad Max and go, like, fuck yes. Like, butcher these fucking pigs.
Like,
because because it's like you're not... It's not,
and I'm not saying like that's how you should react.
You're
like
not
I just
hating
personally,
on the gender. It's those people personally that you hate. It's not because
those
they're
people,
a man or a
but
woman.
when I watch when I was watching that thing, I was projecting every fucking scumbag I've seen at bars, like hitting on women, and every fucking piece of shit on the street.
I do that too,
catcalling and stuff. It's like I know it's not all men, but it's enough men.
No, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. Like I said, like you go on the internet,
like
and you're like, there's not that many that have a problem with a black Spider-Man, are there? And you're like, yes,
it's
there
one of
are.
those things where it's like 1 in 3 women are assaulted by the time they're 30, and it's just kind of like, I can see why a lot of girls kind of go, I hate all men, and I'm like, if I was assaulted in any way, I can understand the idea of
and I also understand that if I'm like, you have only ever met horrible men, and so every single man you ever met,
but I can
is
understand
some motherfuckers is unlucky though. Like
and that is really unlucky, and that makes me angry. But
that's where I kind of like. I used to be very,
but I do get offended when
I
just
used
these
to be very like. I still don't like. I mean, extremist or like really. What would you call it? I guess extremists, like feminists. I think like kind of they tend to undermine their cause. They can tend to give their cause a bad name.
Sometimes,
which is a sucky thing to do. Like the people telling Joss Whedon to kill himself. I thought like that. Like I understand having objections to a character or like a development or whatever that kind of you feel like it's undermined this powerful female character or whatever. But telling someone to kill themselves because of that is not the way to go about it.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this?
No idea.
Sorry, what was it? What did I say 2 seconds ago?
Talking about representation.
Yeah.
Women.
No, we weren't talking about representation. We were talking about real life.
Oh, right. Yeah, I got nothing. I finished that thought, and that was like a little tangent. And I was going to come back.
I have an interesting point though, because you know how they have. This isn't talking about women, but when they were casting the new Spider-Man, they were like, "Oh, we're going to make him black." A lot of people were boycotting it. That happened even before Andrew Garfield. Before Andrew Garfield, they were like, "Hey, why don't we make it Donald Glover, who's Charles Gambino?"
Yeah, he's cool.
And he had a stand-up routine where he goes, you know, it was really great because 50% of those people were like, "Yeah, he's fantastic," and the others like, "Let's kill him," like really quickly. And I'm like, yeah, that really sucks. And
that's people's reactions on the internet is like death threats and rape threats and just like the most horrible things.
And it's really screwed up.
It's just like, don't fucking do that.
Especially with what is it, Miles
Morales.
Miles Morales. He in the comic books is like 8 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
And in the new Marvel movie, they want to make him 8 or 9 or something like that,
cool.
like really young. And I'm like, why can't we just have that character? Like we've had 2 versions of a white guy.
Yeah.
Why can't?
Yeah, I'm sick of Peter Parker now.
Like, yeah, me too. I'm sick of
like
white Peter.
Especially,
They've said that they're not going to do another origin.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Which is good, but I'm just like, just make it different. Like it would be really
make
cool.
it a little bit different, and I'll be happy. Like,
especially because he's joining the Avengers. Like, that's the whole point, that he's going to be in an Avengers movie and shit like that now. Like, this Spider-Man that they're casting for Sony Spider-Man movies will then cross over. And when he crosses over, I prefer to see a black Spider-Man standing there
Than
with
another
all
white
the
dude.
other white dudes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Marvel is now at a point where they've like, hey, we're actually starting to get, black superheroes and stuff like that. Like, we've got Black Panther coming
got Black
out, and we've got Falcon and everything like that. And we've
But the
got
only problem with Black Panther is, it's like, he's cool that he's a black dude, but also he's just a rip-off of the Phantom.
Yeah.
He's Batman and Batman is a rip-off of the Phantom, and Black Panther is a rip-off of the Phantom.
Yeah.
Like, both of their traits together is just what the Phantom was. And he's like the very first superhero.
Well, like, with having those people and knowing that there's a positive response, it's like, so why can't we have a black Spider-Man? Like,
I guess it's probably like producers or whatever being too shit scared to take a chance on that kind of thing.
But I think it's one of those things where in the media and in the movies, it's kind of like, if you don't like it, well, too bad. Because that's the way we're going.
I think that's what annoys me is it's like people are like, wow, I'm not going to see this as a girl in it or a black person. It's like, well, you've got like over 100 years of films with white dudes in it. Like, fucking take your pick, honky. Like, so I think what I was going to say before, by the way, is just that like I don't like the extremist kind of feminists who would tell someone to kill themselves over a character development, but at the same time, people who are like, I'm kind of hate men. I'm less likely to be like, well, hey, I haven't done anything wrong. I just kind of shut up and go, look, I don't know your story,
Well, I know it.
And honestly, I kind of hate dudes too. Like
I get a little bit offended still if some if
someone's like, hey, you're probably a rapist, I'll be like, I'm not. Hey, look, I'm not. But fucking, just like, I'll defend myself, but I'm not going to defend mankind.
All men are scum. I'm like, oh, fuck you, man. Because I'm not. But like, it is sort of a thing where it's just like, you're getting offended about that. And
part
of
me kind of thinks like, fuck you, I'm not. But I don't say it anymore because I kind of think.
I don't know where you're coming from. Well, it is fair to say
you don't know their story, because that is the thing. Like,
because the thing is,
they've got more right saying that because of like the fact that it has been a male-dominated world for so much time, and all of that sort of like domestic abuse and stuff like that. It's like that's fair enough for you to say that if you've gone through that stuff.
And it's like,
I feel that. I would say that.
And I'm sure they get enough. I talk to my sister about this kind of stuff a lot. She's got friends, like female friends, who've literally said, I don't believe in feminism. I don't think sexism exists. I don't need feminism. And it's like, you're just as fucking dumb as MRA dudes. Like, the fact that you can say shit like, I don't need feminism, I don't believe in it, is like, you're able to have that opinion and voice that opinion because of feminism.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason I don't then tell you to shut up and make me a fucking sandwich is because of feminism.
Well, it's sort of like, you don't need it because, because of all of the stuff that has changed, and you're cool now, and you don't need it.
Yeah.
But
there's still so much work to do.
So much shit.
Oh yeah, because like I was talking to my dad the other day, and I was like, what was it like back in your day? Like,
And he's like, shit.
And he goes,
it was trash.
I could go onto a train and find a girl attractive and go, hey, how's it going? And try and talk to them. Nowadays, you have this very kind of approach. It's like, oh, they're like, get away from me, and feel very scared. And I'm like, oh, that's such a horrible thing that we live in a world where it's like women are afraid to talk to any man because of something that might have happened in the past.
Yeah.
Like,
but at the same time, it is like,
at the same,
people are fucking weird, and like when you walk down the street or you're on a train, you find that woman attractive, don't stare at her the whole train trip.
Honestly, my girlfriend gets hit on by dudes on trains and trams and shit all the time, and she'll tell me, this fucking dude was talking to me while I was trying to read, and I get so like, and I'm always like, oh yeah, fair enough, but part of me is just fucking fuming.
Yeah.
Because I never like I never do that. I never did that. Like when I was
people don't deserve to be feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, what the
public place just because
it's a fucking train. She's not there to get fucking hit on.
Oh, of course.
It's the same thing. I think I've said this already.
So I do kind of. So I am kind of a bit of a man hater.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned this before. There's the video where the girl walked through the New York streets and someone filmed all the people catcalling her and stuff.
Yeah.
And the people be like, hey girl, how's it doing? And then she wouldn't say anything. And then they'd just follow her and be like really angry and be like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm just trying to be polite. Why the fuck can't you say hello to me?
So it's really one of those things where
like, just fuck off, man. You don't need to.
Sometimes a lot of guys will be like, oh, I'm so offended that someone would think I'm a rapist or something like that. And it's like, well, it's really,
if you're not a rapist, you got nothing to worry about, brother.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, why you have to really look at your approach if you're getting women to say, "Hey, go away from me."
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, the problem lies within you, sir.
You might not see anything wrong with what you're doing, but then like what those people have experienced
exactly.
can mean that like whatever you're doing is not good.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
is
exactly.
threatening towards them.
Yeah.
Like,
because I know like I can be like a scary looking dude on a train.
Yeah.
Just because I got like funny hair and shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like big.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so I'm very conscious to be like, I'm not going to try and like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like
accidentally
you know what fucking
be physically like
irritates
imposing.
me? I see dudes like help someone with their fucking bags or whatever, and then they'll immediately like start flirting with them, like, "Hey, I just did you a favor, you know."
Yeah, you want to go out
Give me
sometime.
kisses.
That's the thing. Like,
And like I held the door open on this tram for this woman the other day, and I immediately like she was like, "Oh, thank you," and I was like, "Yeah, no worries," and immediately got the fuck out of there. I didn't hover around
that's the
her,
thing.
being like, "So, what's your name?
Well,
Where are you headed?" I was just
the
like,
non-genuine thing. That's not actually people who are like, they're not actually helping them for the sake of helping them.
No,
they're
yeah,
helping them
exactly.
because
And
they
that's-
think
and
that they
exactly.
owe something to them.
Yeah,
now.
Like,
exactly.
like where I work, we work quite late a lot of the time. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay, see you later," and they might be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just waiting for my parents to pick me up or something like that. I'd be 5 minutes waiting." I'm like, "Oh, I can just drop you off," right?
Yeah.
Like very like doesn't matter. Like you
I'm
don't
not-
owe me
I'm
anything.
not-
Like that's fine. There was a guy who used to work there. Was like, "Hey, you need a lift? You need a lift after this?"
Yeah.
And a really creepy dude. And it's the exact same wording, but it's very much the meaning
completely
behind it.
different thing,
Yeah.
And like that's it's fucking ridiculous.
Well, there was some
And that's where I think,
really
like-
terrible study that came out where they were like, "Oh, we need to rethink the like sex education in schools," because when they asked like the young men of like the sort of sex education age, they were like, "Is it okay to like convince a woman into having sex with you?" So it's
Yeah.
like if she says no, then you're like, "Yeah, but like if I haggle her enough until she like says okay, then that's
Yeah.
all right."
Yeah.
And you're like, there was a ridiculous amount of people, like 80% of the kids
Yeah.
in the class thought
Yeah.
that was okay, and you're like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
you
like
gotta teach them all
pester them about it.
Yeah, and it's worrying how much of that stuff isn't like a conscious effort of the you know by these kids or these young men to be sexist pricks. It's just kind of ingrained in the society.
Ones that don't
and like
realize that's a problem.
yeah, and it's the way and it totally like part of it's I think like representation and shit. Like women are kind of represented in movies and stuff for a lot of the time, or like have been as these trophies that you know the men should.
That's the only thing. Like, I like the
win.
James Bond movies, but when I go back and rewatch them, I'm like, fuck.
And
Sean
that's what-
Connery's actually really rough with those
And that's
women.
what
Yeah.
bugged
And
the
like
shit
hits
out of
them.
me. That's
And
what
you're
bugged
like,
the
holy
shit out of me
shit.
about Kingsman. Like we talked about this a little last time, but like thinking about it and stuff, I just didn't like the fact that like at the end he gets trophy sex. I was just kind of
Yeah.
like, I've seen that enough.
Yeah.
It felt like pandering, and it really
I
annoyed
get
me.
that, but there's the other viewpoint where it's like he didn't ask for the trophy sex. He was just being cheeky and being like, "Hey, I'll let
Yeah,
you
but
out,
that
but why
fucking
don't you give you a
cheekiness.
kiss?"
Enough
I know, but-
motherfuckers do that cheeky thing genuinely, thinking that like
Yeah, I know, but
Plus,
he's-
it's also the
but
writing
I don't
backing
think that
behind
character is, and I think there's that little bit of it.
I
just
totally-
like how you
yeah,
talked
I
about
totally-
with the Spider-Man thing, where
yeah,
you're just
But
like,
I
I
think-
totally
I'm just
get
angry
that.
because he's pretty.
Yeah, no, I totally
there's a
get that,
little
and
bit of
I'm
that.
projecting kind of onto this thing,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's enough of a problem that it's kind of like I can't be blamed for like.
But it's a
thinking
very
that,
interesting
you know?
thing
So,
as well
sorry, Johnny,
because
I'm going to cut you off. Sorry, just because what you talked about last episode, when I was editing, I was thinking about it, and the thing that like, because you said at the end when he rocks back up and he's in his suit and he's all like, "Oh, I'm going to beat the shit out of you guys."
Yeah,
And you
that
said-
was definitely
and you
more a
said you
biased
would-
thing on my part.
And you said you would prefer to see him like being in his hoodie or whatever.
Yeah.
I felt like the whole message of the film was the fact that it's not about what your social status is, and it's not about him like becoming upper class.
Okay.
It's the whole. Because I didn't feel like sort of bitter about it. I wasn't like projecting anything. I'm not trying to like offend you.
no,
and
that's
say that
right.
you have
Again,
problems.
that's the
But
beauty of movies and media and shit. You
for
can
me,
interpret it
like
different
I've
ways.
always like relate with like the hero characters and stuff like that, and like honor is like a thing that I'm super big on.
Yeah.
And so when
he came back to
when
like
he
save
is
his
this-
mum, I thought that was great. Like that.
Yeah,
I
I thought he was a good kid because he's
Yeah.
saving his mum and stuff.
Yeah.
And that sort of like he's in a shitty economical circumstance where it doesn't really matter if he's like white. He's not super entitled because
Yeah.
that's sort of really shit.
Yeah.
But when Galahad's like teaching him all this shit and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about the suit. It's like the whole thing where he says like manners maketh the man.
Yeah. Right.
It's not about like I'm rich now, fuckers. It's about like, I have respect for things, and you guys aren't showing that respect.
Yeah,
like I said, out of you for that.
Yeah, like I said last time, I think I watched that movie in the wrong mental state, and didn't enjoy those bits for that reason.
Yeah.
But I still think the trophy sex thing would have rubbed me up the wrong way.
You know what? Going back to that trophy sex thing, it's very much like the way it's written is like, if you do something good, you'll get something out of it. Like that's kind of the thought behind it, and that's what's kind of gonna be.
And like
that's sort of the thing where I'm saying like, as his character, the man, just being cheeky and saying like, hey, will you let me out if I give you a kiss?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, I'll let you out if you give me a kiss. And he's a nice guy. He was going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like he's not.
I know, but like,
then as the woman, she's like, fucking save the world and I'll let you fuck me in the ass.
Yeah.
And like, as a woman, like she's the one in power there.
Yeah, I guess
she's the one making the decisions and stuff. But at the same time, you're like, well, was the script just written by a man like the whole time?
Yeah.
And then it's just
Look,
like,
I think again the thing that what bugs me is that it's not just a one-off thing, and like that's a trope that kind of appears genuinely in other movies. Like you said,
it's kind of like bringing this social construct of men who are upset when they're really nice to a woman and they're like, oh, she put me in the friend zone.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Because people get really fucking angry and crazy, and my girlfriend was reading about people who like propose to them and then they like say no and then they like throw acid in their face.
And it's like, the thing is, and
holy
like,
shit. They actually snap and they're like, if I can't have you, no one can.
And that's the thing. What I was going to say is it's kind of like comedy. Like I think that, nothing should be completely off limits provided the joke's well written. But there's enough fucking dumb bums out there who either don't get the joke or think that the punchline is, the fucking, the fact that black people get called the N-word or, that rape is a thing that exists. Like people will laugh at awful shit for the wrong reasons, and then I feel like it's the same thing.
I heard M-word, not N-word.
No.
What's the M-word?
The masochist. No, then like I feel like it's the same thing with these action movies that have like the trophy sex thing as a gag. It might have been like to kind of fuck with you to subvert your expectations.
I was sort of like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And then after talking with my female friend who also saw it, and I thought that she wasn't going to be okay with it, and then she sort of put
I've talked to like I've talked to female friends who really
I didn't mind it in the
care.
end because I felt like it was a good way of nodding the sex that James Bond normally gets at the end of the movie without being rapey the way that old James Bond is.
That's true.
I'm not. It doesn't like.
Again, I can see
great, but it wasn't something awful that happened.
Sure, I can see that, and I can totally see that reasoning, and I agree with you. But my problem is still just that, or my problem isn't even with this film specifically. It seems to be a problem with the.
I have a very good example
cinema in general.
I was talking about this with you the other day, Michael. How
turn the light on. It's getting weird in here.
Yeah, it's really dark.
Got some mood lighting going on, listeners.
So the other day, we're talking about how aggressive men can be if they're shot down. We're basically saying that.
Yeah.
I went to a gay club the other night. I'm straight.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends that are gay, so I was like, oh, I'll go out. I'll go for the experience.
Yeah.
And the amount of aggressive males that there are, I was like, wow.
Aggressive gay dudes.
Aggressive gay dudes. I'm like, I don't mean to sound
so surprised.
Isn't that like a type?
I don't mind.
The dominant type.
No, but it wasn't even like them
type?
aggressively. It's just like, I would go on the dance floor dancing with friends and they'd be like, corner me off, dance in a corner and be like, hey, how's it going? And I'd be like, no, I'm okay. Like, I'm straight. I don't want anything.
And then they'd be all like, no.
They're like, no, come on, be game. And I'm kind of like, no, I'm okay.
Yeah. The only reason I sounded surprised just then isn't because I'm like, gay people can't be aggressive. It's like I have no knowledge of. Yeah. Like I have one or two gay friends.
It was a very interesting experience.
I have very little knowledge either.
I went to
but I don't go out to clubs, let alone gay clubs, so I don't have any of that sort of knowledge.
I haven't been clubbing in a long time, but it was interesting. I went to the bathroom and I was waiting for a cubicle and this guy was just using the urinal in front of me going, turns back and goes, I like your bow tie. And I'm kind of like, thanks.
I'm not wearing a bow tie.
No, I was wearing a bow tie. And I was kind of like, thank you. And he goes, I'll see you out there, I guess. Right? Like he's still got his dick in his hand.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just kind of like, I feel really uncomfortable right now. I feel like I kind of know what it's like to be really concerned. Like,
yeah.
Because the rest of the night.
At the same time, and it's like, you don't know, it's like, hey, if that was your sexuality, you might not find that
That
like creepy or
intimidating?
threatening, you
Yeah.
might find that as flirty.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But
Yeah,
I
if
think
you were
it's-
into it, then you could just be like, you could still say no, obviously.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
But
basically
you'd be
like
less creeped
but-
out.
rule of thumb. Like it doesn't matter what
but-
you're into as long as it's consensual.
Yeah.
and
But my
people are cool
point
with
was, it was very much, I had two guys that really were kind of like giving me a bad headspace. That instantly the rest of the night, whenever another person came and talked to me, I'm like, I don't want to talk to these people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
when
And that's the thing. It gets to the point where like and again that whole that's why that recently how for a while there was that hashtag not all men.
yeah,
I was kind of in favor of that, but recently
you've realized
it's pissed me off. Like I was
Yeah.
thinking about it the other day, and I was fucking mad thinking about it because I was like, it doesn't matter that it's not all men. It's enough men.
It sort of doesn't.
It's enough men for it to be a problem.
That it's
That is a
like
problem.
my sister feels scared, literally walking 10 minutes from like up the street from my house
Yeah,
at night.
Like,
She
you can
doesn't
say
feel
not all men,
comfortable.
but I think
there's
that's
enough men for it to be a
mostly
problem.
a symptom
It's enough.
of,
It's enough men that like my
It- that
girlfriend walks
falls
to
into-
my house
yeah.
at night with a stick.
And the fact
It-
that it could be one man and that's a problem for that one particular person.
Exactly,
It just
yeah.
shows how much of a problem
Yeah,
it is.
because what I'm trying to say is I think that sort of thing isn't constructive because it falls into that type of like denial where it's like when people like don't want to come out and say that they've been raped because people like will be like, oh, that's not actually rape.
Yeah. Are you saying that
Yeah.
not all men thing isn't constructive?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think that
And it excuses the
doesn't-
ones who do
yeah,
do it.
it
gives them a
it's only
cover. They can
excusing.
hide
It doesn't
behind
like help anyone. It
Yeah.
only gives other people like ammunition that they
Yeah,
like
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
use against women.
Yeah.
Because it's like there is like you're an absolute asshole if you're there and like yelling at some woman being like, it's not all men if she's been abused by someone.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly,
like,
because it doesn't matter that it's
it
not
doesn't
all men.
matter.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
Because
enough men
she
for her
has
to get
been.
abused.
And
And it
that's a
could be
shitty
this-
thing to do.
And it could be this, people are tweeting it and going, oh, not all men rape. But this could still be a guy that abuses someone.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's-
exactly. And that's the thing that it gives them. It gives them
so
a
it's-
fucking cover.
yeah.
It doesn't matter that not all men are rapists or not all men are abusive. Like,
It's
if you haven't abused or raped anyone, you got nothing to worry about. And
Yeah,
let the people who have been abused and raped be fucking angry.
it's very it's very like sort of an aggressive thing to just jump back at them and
Yeah.
like blaming them, like victim blaming sort of
Yeah.
thing is what I was trying to say.
This reminds me of a story. I can't remember what university it is. It's one in America, but it's a girl was raped on campus in her dorm bed, and the school refused to get rid of the student, right, that raped her.
Yeah.
And kind of was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, blah, 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 blah. So she, as a protest, grabbed her mattress and would go from class to class with that mattress as like, this is what I was raped on, kind of like ish, And she's going to say, I'm going to do this every day until the person who's done it is basically, arrested for it, right? And she graduated the other day. Like the school's kind of like,
Fucking
oh,
hell.
well, this problem's out of the way now. We don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's nasty.
It's fucked up. Well,
But I don't know. Again, bringing it back to Mad Max, that's where like representation and like
that's where
shit
it's
like
done
that
well.
is like it's cool.
So I think we've filled our quota for Mad Max easily. We've filled our quota for some feminist talk. We've filled our quota for talking about Kingsman for like 10 minutes. we'll keep that up for next month as well.
Yep.
Just before we
Number
head
one
off.
Kingsman podcasts.
Oh gosh.
Well, Kingsman will be like Kingsman on my podcast will be like Spider-Man on your podcast.
Yes.
It's like the thing that we always come back to and talk
Yep,
about.
yep, yep.
But just before we head off, I thought, well, we'll check in with what we've been playing. Talk about that
Yeah,
because The Witcher 3 came out
And you
only a
digging
couple
that?
of days ago, but I've been playing it. I've been fucking loving it.
That's cool.
It is my forever game.
Mhm.
Not forever. Like it's got 200 hours worth of like stuff to do,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to be playing it for 200 hours, and I don't even know what's coming out for the rest of the year. Like Zelda got delayed, and now I'm like,
What's next?
That's cool. I got Witcher 3.
I'm a bit excited for Halo 5 maybe, but
Yeah, that'll be cool.
it's mostly just like, no, it's okay. I don't need any other games. Like I've
Yeah.
got work and I've got all this other shit to do, and I've
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we play some little video games for a YouTube channel you might have heard of, and I like edit those and put them up. But other than that, I'm just like,
Witcher 3.
Witcher.
it'll just be Witcher 3. I'll just keep coming back to that.
Yeah. I finished Shadow of Mordor the other day. I've been playing that over the last couple of months, just on and off. It's fun. It's like a really cool game. The combat's the best part of it. Like the missions, I was just kind of plowing through because I had to do them.
Yeah.
To unlock more of the game. I didn't find the story all that engaging. I skipped most of the cinematics.
Fair enough.
Like it just wasn't. But that's me personally. I'm just not a big Lord of the Rings fan. I was just playing it for the combat, really.
No, that's fair enough.
And then, but what I was really excited for was I was hoping for I leveled up a bunch. I'd learnt the combat system. I was like kicking ass. I was hoping for a really cool final boss battle. But it does the Halo 4 thing of having a like building up. You have this huge level right before the boss, and then the boss is a quick time event. You push A few times, move the stick a little bit, and then you're done, and there's credits. And it's like, well, that's kind of a bummer, and it makes me miss like. I mean, Devil May Cry like 3 and 4 and stuff. I mean, 3 better more than 4. Like I feel like games a few years ago had really cool boss battles, and like the boss battles were a test of like all your skills that you'd learned up to that point. It was like a final exam for the game. I remember there being boss battles that I got stuck on as a kid,
Yeah.
Whereas now I either plow through them or there is no boss battle. It's a quick time event.
Yeah.
And that kind of bugged me. Other than that, I played some Motorstorm 2 yesterday because Mad Max made me because of the like cars and driving through the desert.
I'm actually
and shit.
like interested in the Mad Max game now. Like they released a trailer and I was like, that actually looks really good now. They announced it 2 years ago at E3. And we haven't seen anything from it since. And now I'm like, that looks really fucking good.
Yeah.
And since
if they can capture the feel of Fury Road in any way, that'd be incredible. Because that's why I've been playing Motorstorm 2.
Because it feels like
it's just like, you're in these kind of fucked up buggy
I was
things
happy
in the
that they
desert.
decided because of the fan reactions to not having an Australian voice actor, they decided to scrap that idea. Because they were like, no, really, guys, we're just going to make it our own because it's not like part of the universe. It's sort of our own take on Mad Max. Yeah. And everyone's like, fuck off, we should have an Australian accent.
Yeah.
And so then they were like, okay, fine, we'll get an Australian accent.
That's cool.
So that should be good now. What about you, Johnny?
I have been playing Mortal Kombat.
The new one?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really good. It's really gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's really one of those games, and it's not that ridiculous to think that it's not one of those games that you'd play by yourself. Really,
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, my friends are over, cool, I'll go play that.
Yeah,
like it's not. It's okay. Like I had someone I was living with. He went through the entire all the story and all that. Unlocked all the characters.
Fighting games really aren't something that you can play by yourself.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those games where when people are.
I used to, me too, but I feel like it's a different time when you didn't have lots of video games.
Yeah.
Like the games that you had, you played the fuck out of.
Yeah, true.
So you're like, I got Mortal Kombat so I could play it with my friends, but I'm just gonna play it when they're not around because I've got nothing
so
else.
weird,
But I remember when I bought it, I was like, there better be like $70 worth of use of this game.
Yeah.
In terms of friends coming over and stuff like that, and it really has.
Well, that's good.
Hours and hours and hours of playing that game.
That's cool.
But the crazy thing is sometimes I just get confused with the buttons. I'm just like some people just smash them button pressions, be like, yeah, kick my ass, and I'm like, yeah, great.
Cool.
I used to I remember Mortal Kombat. Armageddon, the last one that
Mortal
came out.
Wombat.
Mortal Wombat Armageddon that came out the last one that came out for PS2.
Walrus Wombat.
I bought that and played that on my own predominantly. I didn't have play that with friends really. I played it on my own a shit ton and fucking loved it. I would spend hours just because they had the create a character thing, a character and then fucking taking through the campaign thing and just fucking dudes up. I used to get a shit ton of playtime out of single player fighting games, but not so much.
I always used to. My favorite was Deadly Alliance.
Yeah,
that was on PS2 and Xbox.
Yeah, I like Deception.
What do you want, Johnny?
Thanks. But with the Mortal Kombat, that's sprung an idea.
We're done talking about Mortal Kombat.
No, continue. You sprung.
I sprung an idea for a drunk play, so that's
hey, okay.
Yep, drunk plays are in the works. There's something that's coming.
Sick.
Soonish.
Me and my lists of games, all of them where Michael's like, I'm going to get too drunk for this.
I'm the quality control for it.
He's like, I'm not doing this many shots in 10 minutes.
You're the only other person that's actually suggesting game modes, and so I'm still going to be pretty critical of it and be like,
it's like,
we're not just going to do everything. Just
it's so we're going to play this, and you take a shot every time you die, and he's like, no. We're not doing that.
Well,
no,
like you
shot
said
every
earlier,
time
Michael,
you die is the cheap way of doing.
And you said
a
earlier,
game.
like before we started recording this, you didn't want your game room like plastered with vomit.
Yes,
Especially because it's so brand new.
yeah, I don't want that either. The
This is
viewers,
a shiny new room, which is why
the listeners
it's not
can't hear that,
echoey.
Johnny.
Hey, look at it. It's so amazing.
So I'll
is
wrap
very
up
nice.
with like the YouTube check-in. I think we got 3 subscribers in the last month.
Woo!
One of them was me of my like private channel,
Right,
my
right.
private
Yeah.
YouTube thing, because I realized I could subscribe to myself.
You're making
I was
us
like-
seem really sad.
And I was like, fuck it, I'm not above that. Yeah, we'll probably not continually do these YouTube check-ins because they're going to get sadder and sadder each time. And I just don't
like-
feel like doing
just
that.
like,
Yeah.
we had one subscriber
But,
this week.
yeah.
But I
It
thought
was
it
my
was
mom.
We
worth,
lost 3.
I thought it was worth mentioning because we got a comment on one of our videos.
Oh,
What did it
that
say?
from a stranger?
No, not from a stranger.
Oh.
From your mum?
From one of your crew, Guy.
Oh, what did he say?
He was surprised that when I said the super speed smash
Yeah. with,
let's play, he was like, "Why wasn't this Sonic?" He's like, "I thought it was gonna be Sonic," and I was like, "Yep, well,
Well,
I hate Sonic." So that was fun.
Thing when it bites you in the ass.
Other than that, like we've been smashing out the videos. I think we're up to 20
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
of like
shit.
probably this podcast is like the 20th or something, which is pretty
Sick.
cool.
Go us.
Not getting lots of
Woo.
views, but fuck it, we're doing it
fun.
anyway.
It'll get there eventually.
Yeah, So
Just
yeah,
give it
obviously
time.
you can find us on SoundCloud under the METAcast.
Ah, cool.
We're up there now. I did that. Funnily enough, SoundCloud, way better place to like sort of like network and get noticed compared to
YouTube?
To YouTube. I've
Absolutely,
actually had like 3 people listen to the podcast and favorite it on SoundCloud who are randoms.
I get complete randoms
And
on
I'm
my
like,
podcast too.
the
It's weird.
podcast community is really cool. And I was like, one of these dudes were like this other podcast.
Yeah.
And I listened to theirs and I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's nice.
So cheers to all of those
That's
supporters on the
One,
SoundCloud.
one day we'll be in double digits.
Yeah.
And
Are you paying the
I don't have to yet because you got what 6 hours of
I think you have
free.
like essentially I got to like 2 episodes before I had to start paying.
I think that's kind of what I'm going to be like as well.
Yeah.
It's like 3 to 6 hours for free.
Yeah.
So I'll start paying eventually, maybe, probably.
it's worth it.
I found a lot of podcasts, they don't keep their videos up. They just they have like their last 2 episodes up.
Yeah, well that's
and then
what you
they'll get rid
that's
of-
what happens if you don't pay.
Ah, yes. It'll automatically just delete one if you upload
It won't
a new one.
delete them, it'll just make them unavailable.
Unavailable.
until you
Okay,
pay.
cool. But yeah, so cheers to the SoundCloud guys. That's METAcast. That's just the channel name. That's probably pretty easy to find.
Yep.
We're the METAgames on YouTube. It's probably how you found us in the first place, so it's redundant.
Yeah, boy.
There's lots of METAgames channels on YouTube, but only click on ours.
We're the best one.
Yeah, we're the best one. We're
We're
probably the most active, to be honest, which is funny considering we have no fan base.
I'm the best.
You can tweet us at twitter.com/metagames AU or just
Or
at
at
metagames
Metagames.
AU.
Like most people.
Yeah, like regular people. And then there's our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/metagames AU.
Excellent.
Connor,
Yo,
you've got some YouTube
you want
channels.
to plug my shit? Yeah. If you want to see some sketch comedies made by me and some friends, search Harvey's Opera on YouTube. If you want to listen to a podcast with me, hosted by me, 2 of my mates, and we get some guests on. Michael's been on, 3 or 4 times?
Yeah, get me on again.
Yeah. Search Time to Kill podcast on SoundCloud.
I've made Harvey's Opera and your Connor's Vids channel.
Oh, yeah, and
featured
if you-
channels on my.
Yeah,
on
if
the
you want to see my
Metagames
personal channel that has some sketchity sketch comedy written by me and a friend, search CNNR777 vids with a Z. Terrible name. I'm going to change it soon, hopefully. I just haven't thought of a decent name.
That's fair enough.
Honestly, I could fucking think of anything better than
That
this
would
at
be
that point.
more helpful. Yeah. But then all the business cards would go
Or
to
if you just
waste.
search Connor O'Keen, just search my name on YouTube. It'll come up with my fucking channel.
Yeah. Okay, Johnny, you've
You've kind of plugged
sort
your
of
thing in already, but recap
But you can
for us.
recap that
Yeah, no.
forte into YouTube.
Yeah, Fact Studios. I only have 1 video at the moment because it takes a very, very long time to.
So is
'Cause
this
the
like
researchers-
give me a quick rundown? What's the channel like for? Like, what are you doing
It
with
is a show that looks at the representation of media through the arts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, representation of art and the media. So certain things like women and people of color and people who.
Yeah, so it's not all going to be.
So it's got
So it's not-
It's going to be like, hey,
brown people.
Yeah, it's going to be like next
movies of this era, comics.
Yeah, movies, comics,
any sort of stuff.
So I'm working on one, and then Josh is working on another at the same time.
That's
and,
cool.
Cool.
And it takes us like 4 weeks to get an episode out because it just takes a really long time to read.
Yeah. So
That's
what's
all
your
right. How long is each?
do you have
episode?
do you have like a release schedule for episodes? Is it sort of one a month
We're
or
really
something?
scarce at the moment. We're like, hey, do we still want to
Keep doing this.
still keep doing this? Just because of how much work it takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel
It's
like
a lot
that.
of work for very little payoff.
The
Yeah.
meta,
YouTube in general, like
the meta plays are really easy to edit. I can bust one out in like an hour,
Yeah.
and then it'll upload like in like 2 or 3, which is good because they're like 5 or 10 minutes, and so
Yeah.
I can like do that the night before, and it's really easy.
Yeah.
The hard plays are a lot of fucking work.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
that, especially like episodes that I haven't, like games that I haven't played before. That takes a little bit extra time, but like that first episode of Doom, fucking like 4 or 5 hours editing it.
Jesus.
So like then you
we
that's
still
when
have
you're like,
our 1001 spikes as well
yeah, which I'm even looking less forward to.
because we died like
It's so repetitive. I think I'm gonna
cut a lot.
the Doom episode is only 40 minutes. It's like 38
Yeah.
minutes where normally they're hour episodes, because basically I just like fast forwarded through a whole bunch. But what I've done with that is and I think that's sort of what's going to be the formula now with games that are more repetitive, where you're replaying the same level over and over again when you die, and it's like a huge chunk of the episode. It'll be fast forwarded, but the audio won't be fast forwarded. I'll be like
that's fair.
editing some of the best conversations we've had during that.
Oh yeah.
And it'll just be playing over the top. So there's still something
You
interesting to
realize we
listen
have
to.
an entire
cool.
episode with one level, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, we do.
that's what Doom was. So
It's because
I'm thinking about maybe editing the 1001 spikes down. So
Yeah.
like we've got like 3 or 4 episodes, and it might only end up being like 3 all up.
Yeah.
And edit it more heavily. But we'll see what happens with that. I'm not looking forward to it.
I think that's a good way to end it.
But yeah, I think that's all. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it.
Cheers.
See you next month.
Bye.